if an artist was today to paint, let's say, a landscape painting like John Constable, just a landscape, a very sincere landscape painting, it would, by these people who are, the elite, the stereotypical modernists, they would immediately put that blockade up and say, I see what you're doing there. It's ironic. And it was about this paradox of, how can we actually be sincere now? Because we always are just like, we have this second guessing, we have this almost parasite of the hermeneutic, the ideas. And it's almost like we've entered into a time where, a painting can't just be a painting. A a description of lilies can't just be a description of lilies. There is always this other thing, and an inability, something is always in the way of us just having the experience.
It's really the sensuous part that comes first. So this is the same thing as Nietzsche's thought. It's the dance and the music that comes first, and the cerebrality is then added on afterwards. And then if you fetishize the cerebrality, it gets, it overtakes everything else, and then you become obsessed with theories of interpretation and so forth. And you've sort of talked yourself into a kind of self-consciousness that you can't overcome.
Back in the day, I was studying fine art, people would always go, sometimes I just don't get art. And I would just say, well, you don't need to.
That's right.
You don't need, and that ruins everything. You go into an art gallery, think, right, okay, I have to put my art glasses on. Like, well, then just look at the painting. Just look at the painting. Read the book. It's a curse. It's a parasite. It ruins everything, I think.
I absolutely agree. Think of T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. I think what makes it great is not the really cerebral parts that we feel like we have to understand. It's because it sounds so great when you read it out loud. It's powerful. It touches you. And that being touched, the somatic part is the most important part. The cerebral stuff you can do perfectly well without.
So why then include, almost the most tricky and trickstery of artists in your book, Marcel Duchamp, especially his, infamous and just almost timeless now painting piece, Given, which I believe has another name, which is
yeah. Given and the Illumination. That's in there because I went to the museum in Philadelphia and I saw it. It made me mad. So, have you ever seen it?
I've only seen it online. I guess we should explain how it works.
So it's an installation, and it's in a room by itself, and then you go in at one at a time, and there's a door, and the door has a little hole, a kind of a peephole, and then you look through the peephole to see this looks a little bit like a Renaissance park from a Da Vinci, and there's this nude woman. You see only her lower half, and she's splayed and has a sort of crooked vulva, and what made me mad about it was that what he does, like you said, he's a trickster. He positions the viewer as a voyeur. He's intentionally positioning you as a subject and the art as an object. And I think the force of the modernism that interests me most is overcoming that field. You don't have to be a subject looking at an object. You can just be a person looking at a painting or experiencing a painting. I think the Rothkos are another good example of that. They're close and they're big and the color's intense. It's not a subject-object situation. You're not. I mean, you can try to be very intellectual about it. It's kind of hard not to, but the paintings are so good and so powerful that it becomes just a unitary experience rather than a subject-object situation. So I think it's a parody of the art world, a parody of the way the art world works, a parody of the way traditional art works.
This parasitic sort of something invading and saying, right, you can't just approach it yourself though. You have to put something up, you have to bring in a theory, you have to understand it. Is there an alternative where we can still analyze, still engage, maybe would be the better word, but we don't take it apart? What is it to approach a piece of art? What is it to approach a piece of literature? And how to do it without that, destruction?
Well, I think most people probably do it right anyway. You know, you read a book and you like it or you don't, and, and then they don't think about it anymore. But if you want to continue thinking about it, so how do you do that? So if you're a graduate student right now in literature, all is lost because you're going to have to take a course it's going to be called Literary Theory of History or History of Criticism, and you'll do Lacan one week and reader response theory the next, deconstruction the next, feminist theory. Then at the end of the course, your assignment's going to be, okay, take one of these theories and look at a work of art through it. So already the structure is just like Given, right? You're forced to look at art through a peephole, and to bring Kleist back into it, if you put on green glasses, the whole world looks green. That's the way literary theory works. And I'm not really against theory, I'm for theory, but I'm against doctrine, because the upshot is that, you take some theoretical reflections and then you have to turn them into a doctrine that you apply to literature. But that always means that in the premises, the conclusions are already contained. So if you have a theoretical doctrine that you're applying, you already know what you're going to find, which means that literature has been cut out of the equation effectively. What you really want from literature is to hear what it has to say. You have to listen to what art is saying, and that's the beginning point, right? So if you read a novel, say, or you look at a picture, you be aware of what really appeals to you about it, and then try to think about that and write about that in a disciplined way. Not a way that's determined by a doctrine or a theory, but a way that, once again, Susan Sontag, I think, is the perfect example of how to do that. She begins with an observation, and then she develops it critically and in a disciplined way, but not necessarily methodically. So all is not lost unless you're a graduate student in literature.